Hello everyone, this is Bloba coming at you with another video. This time we're going to be looking at Kindred Fates Alpha Combat Arena patch notes of patch 1.03. This came out just yesterday. I wasn't able to cover it on day of release, but I'm covering it at like 12:24 a.m. so it's a little bit past midnight when I'm making the video. So I was almost there, but I wasn't quite able to cover it in time as release. I'm also trying out a little bit of new sound settings, so let me know how I sound in the comments, please. But let's get into this. We've got a fresh batch of updates for you this weekend. Decaf for some, espresso for others. This patch hopes to reduce the effectiveness of bunny hopping, as well as increasing the effectiveness of some of the less played characters. Dev team is still hard at work on improvements to hit detection and rubber banding. On that, I heard Rob say him and John were on to something very promising for that. In the meantime, consider trying these changes out and let us know how they feel. Gameplay changes. Jumping now costs a small amount of stamina. Stamina now regenerates faster for all characters, and officially named to our most beloved characters. That would be Gentle Gaze becoming Lumala, and Shovelbutt becoming Shovelit. For balance changes. My opinion on these changes almost slipped my mind because I was focused on those new character names. Stamina regens faster was absolutely not needed, in my opinion. I think absolutely not needed might be a little harsh, but I think it was in a good spot, mostly. The only reason I say mostly is because jumping, I can maybe see the justification for it because jumping is going to take stamina, but I think it almost negates the jumping takes stamina if it regenerates faster, because that you're gonna, depending on how much it regenerates, you might have as much stamina as before, maybe even more. I really think they should have just left the changes as they were, like left stamina regen as it was, just added the jumping changes and then saw how that felt. But I haven't had a chance to play it yet. These are just my speculations on how it is going to feel. For the movement speed, we have reduced Skullkin's movement speed slightly and increased Kadoki's movement speed slightly. That is actually wondrous. Skullkin will now be easier to catch for melees, which was a huge pain, and Kadoki, increasing his movement, will make it a lot easier to get around and dodge more effectively without actually dodging, and get behind cover and just cover more ground, because Kadoki was fairly slow before. All the buffs have had their cooldowns increased from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. I think that might be alright. Maybe a little bit unnecessary, but it definitely won't hurt buffs. I just still prefer for buffs to not one-shot you at stage 6, and instead just do what they do at stage 4 now, but at stage 6, basically. And I think that would fix buffs, more or less. Altogether fix any problems I had with buffs. The cooldowns don't hurt, though. I am still happy to see them. Any nerf to a buff, so at this point, is well warranted. Right here is something I'm excited for. Pretty much everything past this I like. Debuff range. Increase startle and roar by 1.5 times. Like I said, I haven't been able to play yet, so I can't see all this effects in game, but that might, just maybe, make it worth debuffing. Because combined with how these cooldowns are, with you increasing your range, this might be enough. This might be why they decided to not nerf buffs further, but instead buff debuffs, which could be the right option in all honesty. We'll have to play to find out. Rockslide getting an increased damage, that's well warranted. It rarely hits because I think hit detection issues. I'm not technical, so that's just my guessing, my viewpoint from a player, and then I've watched people get bombarded by a rock slide from their perspective, and it looks like they should have gotten hit when they weren't. And as playing Shovelbutt, I feel like my attack should have hit, but it wasn't. But yes, the increased damage is well warranted because the few times it does hit, and the damage is a little bit lackluster. Quicksand increasing its radius is absolutely wonderful. Quicksand is one of the most cool, unique attacks in the game. It suffers a little bit compared to most of the other AoEs because you have like Ember and Skullkin's AoEs do burn and poison respectively, meaning the damage that Quicksand does for the hit that you have to get off, and all it really does is pull them back in, which isn't too hard to get out of. Wasn't entirely worth it in my opinion. For the reduced damage, it's negligible, honestly, but I don't think it was necessary. Like I said, Quicksand was not keeping up for being like, if you had a choice between burning, poisoning, and Quicksand, your order, or damage, your order would go in this order right now as far as the current meta goes until they change burn and poison. You'd go poison first, that wins you the game, more or less, that kills whatever kinfolk you do it with no recourse from the enemy, unless they abuse a glitch currently in the game. 2, you have burn. The reason I say there's no recourse against it is because there's like only one item in the game that doesn't literally, nobody runs it. So if they do run it, you could burn them, which will, once again, kill them. All you have to do is run away. Or 3, you have Quicksand, which will maybe take them down to half health if you're lucky. So yeah, the choices kind of laid out are stacked against Quicksand, despite Quicksand being the coolest and funnest to use of all those abilities, which is why I think Quicksand does not need a damage reduction. But the increased radius is wonderful. It's going to make it much easier to use. For Spore Dance, this is Kadoki's Sleep, by the way. Increase the active hitbox time from 0.24 seconds to 0.3 seconds. I'm not sure how much of a difference that's going to make. That's like a fraction of a second. So I'm not sure. It's a buff. I'm pretty sure that's a buff, but not by much. Increased activation delay from 0 seconds to being animation dependent. Once again, not sure that that's going to really be measurable effect in game too much. Teleport right here, this nerf. Let me just check so I can make sure. Yep, this nerf is probably the most needed nerf of all of them. After going back and just glancing over those other nerfs, like triple checked, I'm putting my cards down. The teleport nerf is the absolute best thing in balance in this game since they nerfed buffs the first time. The distance is reduced from 50 to 40 meters. That's good. And the cooldown is increased from 8 seconds to 15 seconds. Phenomenal. I would trade I would let them keep 50 meters and let them keep buffs at 5 seconds just to get that cooldown increased on teleport, because all Skullkin has to do is poison you and then just start teleporting around, and you literally cannot do anything against him if you're on a map like Ruins, and then Riverside is very hard to counter, and then on the Forest it's easy to get around, but on those other 2 maps, Ruins, you're literally dead. There's genuinely nothing you do. He'll just teleport and go behind cover, so you can't even hit him with ranged. Riverside, there's a lot of cover he can bob and weave between. It's hard to hit, but not impossible. And then Forest, it doesn't matter on Forest. But that alone, that puts a big hurt on the poison meta for Skullkin. Poison, I still think does need to be touched up on, but that is a huge step in the right direction. And then bug fixes. Fix the bug that allowed rush and bounce to deal significantly more damage and travel significantly further than intended. I've noticed that there's some weirdities going on with bounce in particular, and I think that this might hit the nail on the head with bounce seeming to do an odd amount of damage a lot of times and sending the opponent flying way further than it feels like they should go. And then fix the bug that prevented Home and Reticle from animating on all arenas. I don't know how much. I don't know if I've affected by that bug. Maybe if it's what I'm thinking of, but I'm not positive I have. But it's good that they got the bugs out. Anyways, I'll go ahead and like it. I haven't done that already. But yep, everything in here. The only things I don't like this, but it's literally pretty negligible. And everything else I completely agree with. I feel like buffs might need to be taken down a notch further, but because they buff debuffs, that is making me believe. I believe that maybe debuffs will be viable. If not this update, in an update coming soon. And that will be the counter to buffs through strategic gameplay rather than through just having to nerf them straight up. But this has been Bloba signing off, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. This has been my patch note analysis for Kindred Fates Combat Arena Alpha 1.03, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all join me next time for the next analysis. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and goodbye.